Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend with Panzura and Wasabi this morning. Today's webinar is on keeping unstructured data secure, visible, and compliant, and how Panzura, the data management company and one of our favorite object storage partners, Wasabi, helps you to do that. So today's presenters are Tom Ellis, he is with Panzura, and Jean-Michel Carré from Wasabi. Gentlemen, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra, and good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm going to start off today and then hand through to Jean-Michel. I'm going to give you a overview of Panzura, the technology, why we exist, and what we deliver, and how working with Wasabi we can deliver the visibility, compliance, and strong security that you can provide to customers around their unstructured data. So just starting off then, Panzura is a data management company. We don't sell storage. Our space is leadership in hybrid cloud data management, where we migrate, manage, and protect data so customers can make better business decisions on that data once it's secured. And we do that with 3 layers of technology. At the core, we have a global file system that's highly available and with military grade security. Next, we have deep search and audit capability, plus ransomware alerting and remediation. Then we have a layer of smart apps that allow for real-time secure collaboration and deep security automation and better data visibility. So if we look at data today, data is being created faster than ever before. And some stats from IDC state that in 2020, just before COVID struck, there was 64.2 zettabytes of data that was created or replicated, but only 6.7 zettabytes has actually been stored or used for anything of use. And that data growth will continue to have a 23% compound annual growth rate between now and through to 2025. So there's a lot of data still being created. What we do is make it easier to store, secure, and manage that data so that you can use more of it to drive positive business outcomes towards your customers. And there's a great quote here from a chap called Clive Humby, who said data is the new oil, and it's valuable, but it's only if it's refined for use. So what we do is refine that data for use. So if we just step back a bit and look at unstructured data, the problem we see is traditional NAS and other methods of storing this data has not changed for over 2 decades now. And on average, after a year of creation, 90% of unstructured data still lies unused on islands of on-premise storage. And if you go back to the IDC stat, you can sort of see that roughly 64 to 6.7 zettabytes is about 10% of that's actually used for anything. But it's this unstructured data increase that is creating a huge attack surface for bad actors to instigate ransomware attacks, because it's easy to locate and simple to encrypt, so it's unsafe. And then lastly, when you look at how it's being stored, it's then replicated. And if you look at a backup environment, for example, where it's recommended you have a 3-2-1 strategy, so one copy on premise, 1 copy in the cloud, and then the original copy, that's 3 times the amount of data that you require. So when you actually look at the growth, that's becoming unsustainable in terms of cost and the storage systems required on premise to manage that. So if we look at, again, how we differentiate ourselves as Panzura, we don't just want to be a better NetApp or Dell or Nasuni. We want to actually improve what already exists, and we define new and better ways to store, secure, and manage that data in the cloud. And this is built on key blocking patents. That means that we own the delivery and creation of that hybrid data cloud management solution we deliver. And it's these patents for global file locking, global data reduction, and global collaboration that is making us market leaders in what we do today. So in terms of those solutions or those patents that we deliver, they help us reduce data corruption, they reduce unwanted data costs, reduce latency, and allow for customers to be more efficient and work at the speed of business as they need to. And just touching back on what I mentioned before, 1/3 of the cost of other solutions is we don't need to replicate and back up data because of the way that we capture that data, the way that we snapshot that data, and the way that we store that data, partnering with people like Wasabi. and then 5,000% faster as we have sub 60-second latency, which I'll come on to in the next slide how we achieve that. But that's from our nearest cloud-based competitor. If you actually look at the way we do that, the way that we capture deltas in our what we have as a mesh network, as I say, which I will cover in the coming slides, that gives us that 60-second sub 60-second latency. When we look at our nearest competitor, they have all their file locks and they have metadata catalog within the data store, which means they have huge latency going in and out of the cloud, up to about 5 minutes. So when you actually look at that, that's where we get that 5,000% faster figure from. And then the 75% reduction in data growth, which is linked back to removing the need to replicate and back up files, and plus the way we manage them. So it's cost down and output up is what we deliver, which is a great thing for the customers we have. But these are big claims, so let's look how we do this, coming on to the technology. As I already mentioned, the traditional way of storing unstructured data is to make many copies of files that give you a bigger attack surface for ransomware criminals to exploit. Our way changes that dramatically. We have a single copy of each file and only capture the changes made by the users as they collaborate. And that's going back to mentioning about the 60-second deltas that we capture in that data from a single file. And this radically changes the amount of data that you create and store, so it's cost down and performance up. And then it protects against ransomware attacks by allowing us to roll back to the last clean change before encryption. So if you think of the way this is done, we have a single file, and as we capture those deltas as users are collaborating through our nodes on the network, if then a file is encrypted through ransomware, we can just roll back to the last 60-second snapshot to get the clean version of that document, isolate the actual infection and the infected documents through the ransomware attack, and use whatever tools customers have to remove that malware from their systems. And that allows customers to get quickly back into read-only and then back into full production as soon as possible. And we have use cases and examples of this. One particularly one in the US through a healthcare company where they were attacked by ransomware, and within 15 minutes were moving back into normality in terms of their network usage and their access to their files that their users had. And the last bit I mentioned is about the collaboration. This allows users to collaborate files real time, which is great if you have any customers that are working in design environments or any sort of vertical where collaboration at real time of any files are required. So that's the technology that we deliver and how we manage data. And from that's great, but what does that actually mean in terms of challenges that you and your customers are facing? When we talk to our customers, CIOs and analysts like Gartner and IDC, these are the top 3 things that businesses have and the challenges that they have managing data. First, you want your data to be secure and free from ransomware attacks, and I've already mentioned how we stop that through the way that we manage data and manage files. And if you look at ransomware today, the latest stats is around $103 million per month was being paid on ransomware globally last year, and that is growing at around 35%. So where we tend to get engaged a lot of late is where people have actually already been attacked. So it's sort of thinking about how to resolve an issue that's already happened is not a great posture to be in. But what we can do is make sure that solution goes in place to make sure customers are immune to ransomware, so they're not even attacked to start with. And then you want to be able to see where your data is and who's doing what with it and why they did that to it. So you want to be able to audit and be compliant in where your data resides and who's accessing it. And then lastly, once you've secured your data and once it's visible and you can see where it is and what it's doing, you can then put it to work. And that is that moving that unstructured to structured, then to value, and driving better business outcomes with that data that you have. So as I mentioned at the start, we're built around 3 powerful products. And when you look at the full stack like this, you could look at it like a delicious cake. At the core of our solution, the base of the cake is our data layer. This is our award-winning cloud file system. And on top of that, we have data services, which is the icing. This provides you with that data visibility. And then for us, the cherry on top of the cake is the smart apps, which allow you to enhance protection and collaborate on your data in real time. So if I look at these in more detail, CloudFS, as I say, is an award-winning, fast and highly secure global file system. More than that, it's very simple to use. You need ESXi or Hyper-V instances on premise or cloud instances to host the nodes, and that's what gives the users access to the data that's then been migrated to Wasabi Hot Cloud storage. If we actually look at some of those figures as well, I mentioned immune to ransomware, easy to manage, as I talk through the next phase, which is the Panzura Data Services, but then the 13 nines. So Wasabi offer 11 nines. We are increasing that through the military grade security and redundancy that we have within our cloud file system itself. Next, we have Panzura Data Services, which is a SaaS-based solution, and this provides complete visibility into your data real time. And at any one time, we're managing 12 billion bits of data through our AI engine, so customers really can see things that are not as they should be if they start getting any effect from any malware or any compliance issues. And the two main superpowers of that is our search and audit capability. So search allows for global search on all your files, allowing you to find and retrieve data in these in sub-second times. And audit is this governance engine. And we keep a dossier of where data is, who opened what, when did they do this. It's great for setting policies to achieve compliance standards. And the thing to point out about Panzura Data Services as well, whilst it's a SaaS layer on top of our cloud file system, it also has the ability to search and manage data that isn't under cloud files, under our CloudFS platform. So it is truly a global unstructured data management engine for us. And then on top of that, I mentioned the smart apps. These enable the collaborative value of data, plus enhance existing security search and audit features. I'd like to just quickly highlight three of these. When customers have data and they want to share that data either internally or externally, they've got to jump through quite a load of hoops of third-party integrations such as Dropbox, Box, or things like that. But doing so adds latency and loses their ability to manage and secure that data and keep it with any audit, compliance, governance controls that they need to. Panzura Edge allows you to access files in the field directly from a device of choice. So this is for your users internally within a customer, and that gives VPN, access to your data without a VPN through any device in the field. You've then got Panzura Company Connect. And this is a unique product that enables sharing of data with third-party collaborators outside of organizations, but still remain in control with all the great security and audit features that Panzura offers. So if you think about, for example, a construction business that may need to send files outside of the business to third-party contractors, this now enables that construction company to carve out a portal which their third party can go through and access and collaborate with your business. And then lastly, Panzura Protect. And because we know what ransomware looks like through the AI engine of Panzura Data Services, Panzura Protect looks for trends in users and data behavior. So it starts alerting when suspicious activity is happening. And as we develop this product coming down, it'll have the ability to sever NFS or SMB connections and isolate users as well ahead of a ransomware attack exploding within your network. So Panzura is driven and obsessed about driving value for our customers, and this is shown with our NPS score, which is very high of 87, and it's a significant factor of that is due to our Panzura Global Services. So we have a great solution. It's highly secure, highly intelligent, allows for collaboration, but we need to make sure that it's important to us that every customer has the support that the product deserves post-sales. And every enterprise customer has Panzura premium services included with their purchase, and this delivers enhanced value and peace of mind. So when we look at from initial engagement, that's site survey, assessment of data, solution design, set up, and then handing back, migrated and handing back to be production ready. We have our own migration services called Panzura Quick Start, and on average we can do those engagements and migrations from 60 to 70 days and hand that data back. So nobody can go and buy, if you go and buy a solution in the open market, that you're left to migrate that data yourself. We make sure that we own that data migration from the on-premise data stores into our solution in Wasabi. And then the ongoing monitoring and management of that, including ransomware recovery. Now, I mentioned before that we've got examples where we've had businesses back up and running very quickly, and that's included within the premium support, which is 24/7/365. And with that is also, lastly, to point out the access to a dedicated TAM. So we've got a very strong solutions and services business behind the product that we deliver. So, but let's just now start moving into what the problems that unstructured data provide and how we help break those down to turn that data into value, because this is the key bit. It's about identifying the data, moving it into the cloud, but also then how do you then make sure you put that to use and not just manage it, but actually truly turn it into business value. So if we look at some of the averages across the industry, I mentioned already in the 90s the amount of data that's created that goes unused and the amount of it that's siloed. But if we really look to the right of this slide here, it's the number of working hours lost on the productivity that is just not gained through managing or trying to access data that is out in customers' environments. And when we've done some assessments, we're finding files, a huge load of files that are still relevant back from the year 2000, so 20-year-old data or 22-year-old data that still needs managing, that even the customers didn't even realize they had. So if we think about things like social media, text files, video, design files, audio and internet log files. But if we look at what happens when we break that down, so when we partner with Wasabi and we can break down these silos, there are significant benefits to the customers we work with. So better collaboration, and I mentioned about real-time collaboration of data using our solution, efficiencies in terms of resource, cutting down costs, and we talk about things like IT outages when we have the way that our filers work with the caching of data. It means we can also work offline with the latest versions of data that's being cached in there. So if there's internet outages, you've still got access to the data. In terms of the business agility, though, the ability to scale up and scale up quickly when you need to, you're getting all the benefits of migration to a cloud model with ourselves and Wasabi, and those insights into that data of what it is and how to get a better return. And when we look at some of the other data down the bottom, those percentages, this was a recent study by Ernst & Young, showed 98% of industry leaders agreed that digitizing and digital solutions for their data are critical in terms of demonstrating 30% increase of productivity and a 21% increase in profitability. So if you imagine if you can provide the answers to these common industry and vertical specific problems that customers are seeing, and by working in partnership with Panzura and Wasabi, we can resolve these issues and unlock further upsell opportunity for our partners to sell cloud native solutions and services. But if we now stop there and just have a look at the value Wasabi brings on top of this to our partnership through their hot cloud storage. So I'm going to hand over now to Jean-Michel from here. And
okay, thank you very much, Tom. That was very interesting. And while you were presenting Panzura, I remembered when I joined Wasabi about a little bit more than 2 years ago, one of the first customers I spoke with was a joint Panzura and Wasabi customers, and I was really impressed by the efficiency of your solution and how smart it can help customers to manage unstructured data with users spread over the planet, particularly these days. So let me give you an overview on Wasabi. First of all, so Wasabi is an American company. We are headquartered in Boston, and we offer cloud object storage as a service. Well, privately held, we have quite a lot of money. We received $130 million last year, so we have more than $275 million. We are using this money particularly to increase our footprint. So we opened recently several new locations, and we're going to open new locations in the next months. I will give you a detail on that. We offer cloud object storage as a service. We are compatible with Amazon S3. So basically, it means that all of the applications who can work with Amazon S3, they work with Wasabi. And that's why in the spread of our customers, on the bottom right, we have the technology partners. The technology partners, they are companies like Panzura, who have a solution which works with Amazon S3 and which works with Wasabi. On which we did additional work from a technical perspective, from a marketing perspective, in order to provide a stronger solution and a more cost-effective solution to our customers. The benefits of Wasabi are extremely interesting. The first one is about price. It was a corporate and management decision to make the Wasabi price as low as possible. I will give you some details in the next slide. And basically, what we see, and our customers, they confirm this statement, the price customers they spend using Wasabi is about 5 times less expensive than what they would spend by using Amazon S3. One of the reasons is the price per capacity is lower than the competitors, but we do not charge for egress, which is basically when you access data, and this is exactly what all the Panzura users, they do on a daily basis. They're going to do egress to recall data from the cloud. So the price is extremely attractive and competitive, but we didn't make any sacrifice on the performance. Our performances are very good. We made a benchmark to compare ourselves. I will give you some number, and we have extremely good performances, whether you upload data or you download data. And the last component of our value proposition is about data protection. I will give you some details, but basically, if you're looking for a cloud storage solution and the cloud provider is not hosted in a data centers which have all of the data redundancy certifications, the solution does not offer the 11 nines data durability. This is not a valid provider for a cloud storage solution. So we are growing very fast. We are growing across the globe. We are growing also through our channel partners. We have more than 10,000 partners, whatever is their area of skills, of competency, but they are helping us to spread the Wasabi word and to grow our customer bases. And that's why we are storing exabytes of data. We have more than 10 storage regions. I will give you the exact view of the locations of our Wasabi region in a few slides. So pricing, it's pretty easy because Wasabi, first of all, has only one tier of cloud storage. If you look at the competition, and particularly the one we usually refer as the big three, Amazon, Azure, Google, they have 4, 6 different tiers of storage with different prices, and it is very difficult for the customers to assess which tier they should use. With Wasabi, we have one tier and we sell one product, and the product we sell is a terabyte of data at $5.99 per month. A month is 30 days in the Wasabi world, and we do not charge for egress, we do not charge for API request. So if you think of a customer who has 1 petabyte of data, which is easy to reach, particularly in the market like computer-aided engineering, which is very familiar to a Panzura. A petabyte will cost you approximately $300,000, whether you go with Amazon, Azure, and Google. It's going to cost you only $73,000 with Wasabi. And this is only 20% of egress. If you increase the percentage of egress, that will increase the cost of the Amazon, Azure, Google invoice, when it will not change the cost of Wasabi. To buy Wasabi or to sell Wasabi, depends on which side you are. We have two models. The first one is called pay-as-you-go. It means the customer will pay on a monthly basis the capacity they consumed during the previous month. And for the customers who have a larger capacity and you know exactly what they want to do and how they are going to grow during the following months or following years, we have a model which we call reserved capacity storage. The customer commit on a capacity, commit on a period, which could be a year, 2, 3, up to 5 years, and gets an additional discount. Performances. Here, this is a screenshot, but once you get a copy of the presentation, you can download the full benchmark report. We compared ourselves against Amazon with multiple workloads, reading, writing, multiple threads. Yeah, you can see there are 10, 20, and 30 concurrent threads. The green bar is Wasabi, the orange is Amazon, and the ratio is always between 2 and 3 times better using Wasabi than using Amazon. Protection, that's extremely important. As a customer, when you put your data in the cloud, it's no longer your premises, it's outside of the company. So the data must be well protected. We talk about the data durability, 11 nines. This is claimed by all of the other competitors I mentioned. 11 nines data durability means that it is impossible to lose a single data because of the design of the storage infrastructure. It took a little bit of time to Wasabi, at least 2 years, to operate our first data center, and we are able to claim the 11 nines data durability. Great, I cannot lose my data, but how is available my data center? So we are hosted by data center providers who are offering a 99.99% availability service level agreement, and that makes the data extremely available and strongly protected. We perform additional integrity checks because particularly with this unstructured data, you don't necessarily access them frequently. So in the background, we do some additional integrity checks to make sure that the data, they are still integer and protected. Security, I put my data in a public cloud. The data will be encrypted both in transit and at rest. Sometimes the application at the customer site has also the capability to encrypt the data, so you can send to Wasabi already encrypted data, which will be encrypted a second time. And this is extremely secure and extremely strong protection to have immutability available also on Wasabi because of the ransomware threats which Tom described and all of the financial impact it has on the company. We follow the Amazon S3 protocol, so the identity and access management tool which the customers they use to connect to the Wasabi console to manage their account storage, to manage the buckets, to look at the capacity. They are strongly protected. And one of the best practices is to use multi-factor authentication. We can talk about different compliances. Compliances owned by Wasabi. Some of them are owned by our data center providers. The data center providers, they are all ISO 27001 certified, SOC 2 certified. At Wasabi, we are HIPAA certified, which is healthcare for US patients. FERPA, CGIS, there are also certifications for the US market. MPA is to protect the intellectual property of videos, and the GDPR regulation for the European customers or any customers who is storing personal data of European citizens, they must comply with the GDPR regulation. And with Wasabi, you can be GDPR compliant. You can be GDPR compliant as long as you store your data in a country which is GDPR compliant. For the moment, the European countries plus UK are GDPR friendly. So this is our current status of the Wasabi storage regions. So we have 4 locations in the US. We opened very recently a 5th location, which is in Canada, in Toronto. We had 1 location in Japan, in Tokyo. We opened another one at the end of last year in Osaka. In Europe, we started to operate from Amsterdam about 3 years ago. And since November last year, we opened new locations, London, Paris, and Frankfurt. You see with a blue bullet, that's the openings which will happen before the end of the second quarter. We're going to open Sydney in Australia and Singapore in Asia. So it is interesting to understand that now we are present all over the globe. And it is interesting to know that with a single Wasabi account, you can create buckets in any of these locations. You do not need to have a specific Wasabi account per Wasabi region. You can store your data wherever you want.
So thank you, Jean-Michel.
To Tom.
Yeah, so I'm going to close out now by looking at how we can work together with Wasabi in terms of an engagement model into our customer base. And just to touch as well what Jean-Michel said about that combined security and compliance that Wasabi bring combined with ourselves makes us a really strong solution together. So what would a process look like to get this deployed and working to deliver value? The way that we work with our partners is first to identify data stored on file shares across physical locations, and we do this leveraging our PDS service to assess through our services business, so we can go out and look at where unstructured data resides, when it was last modified, who accessed it, and build that view as well of the sort of tiers of storage that are required and the work required to then bring that in. And the next step is to take the output from this and create a business case for the findings, so providing that back through our channels to customers so that they can see the benefit and what those steps would look like. And then using global services, we can build out a project plan and begin to migrate data by site or workload. And once deployed, in that 60 to 70 days, the solution is production ready and covered with our ongoing management by premium services. And once the data is in Wasabi and secure and visible, new projects can be planned to extract values. And this is another example around construction, but then we're starting to help build out use cases around the engineers, project managers, and what customers want to do using the full stack of the Panzura solution backed by Wasabi on the object store. And then if we just take another look at a quick look at the technology and how our mesh network resides. I mentioned about how we share the locks and that 60-second capture that we have. So we work differently to other cloud storage software providers that are out in the market today, and the fact that we don't rely directly on the internet and the object store to hold file locks, to hold any metadata. We hold that in our filers or our nodes around the outside where the cloud file system resides. And on that mesh network, we then share those locks real time, and that allows us to do that real time data collaboration. So, and that can be down at file level, it can be at cell level, byte level as well. So if you think about design environments, CAD and CAM, you could have someone in New York working on the top floor of a building and somewhere in London working on the bottom floor at the same time, because those locks are shared between each region around the mesh network. And that also allows us then to have this immutable architecture, which adds to the existing immutability and reliability that Wasabi provides. So in terms of capturing those 60-second deltas and then being able to roll back very quickly in the event of anything like a ransomware attack. But once data is moved to our solution, our joint solution, you can then enjoy the benefits of several other cloud native services that you can sell around that. So it's not, as I mentioned, about just migrating data and securing it, it's then finding out what's there and what can be used and what can be done with that data and how valuable that is. And there's various use cases that we see today. Obviously for a partner, compute and storage is the upsell of additional hardware and migration services, but then starting to look at AI, machine learning, data analytics. Virtual desktops is very strong. We have a lot of use cases where once data's moved into the cloud, then the users can move into the cloud as well with virtual desktops and document processing as well. We've got other use cases, for example, in oil and gas, where data has been moved under our management and then AI services used to extract data and text from files that are within there. So there's a lot more to be done once that data is secured under our management. And then just looking to finish up on a couple of use cases. Well, cloud mirroring is a use case, but it's also a new feature that we have been added to CloudFS this year. It gives additional redundancy. So we've already mentioned, I mean, you think about Wasabi with the 11.9s and the redundancy within the data centers, the security and ability for our solution to add even more to that. And then we've introduced cloud mirroring. This just adds another layer of redundancy across multiple clouds. So it lets you place the same set of data in two separate object stores, giving you cloud redundancy with high availability. So if your primary cloud goes down or you have an internet outage, CloudFS switches to the secondary cloud store, letting you carry on while your primary cloud provider is offline. And that primary cloud provider can be on-premise. And I think for Wasabi, that's a great opportunity for us to start seeding their solution into customers together to look at how we can build from that redundancy model. And then lastly, if I go back to Jean-Michel's slide about their global presence, what we're seeing now, and this is obviously quite a large scale example, but anyone working in the European region will know about GDPR and things like data spillage. So what Panzura with CloudFS and Panzura Data Services, what we can do, we're already a highly secure solution, military grade security within CloudFS, but what we can do with Panzura Data Services is put those compliance zones in place where we see around the world here, there's different compliance zones, so you can actually align those drive letters to make sure folders are in the right place, but if there's any slippage, it'll alert so you can either go to the organization and log these things, but in effect avoid any form of fine or consequence of doing that. And we have helped clients already save money in terms of GDPR fines, but if you look at data sovereignty compliance and the world is today, this is a great solution for being able to protect yourself against that. And then just in summary, so we provide this end-to-end hybrid multi-cloud data management solution, which I've now talked through. It's secure enough for high security public sector organizations such as the Department of Defense, Department of Justice in the US, who are users, and it's simple enough to spin up in minutes. And with the power of Wasabi cloud storage as well, that allows us to go really deep in terms of the government's control and security of the data, and it's designed to give that visibility and the collaboration that customers need to make data work for them in today's world. So that's it in terms of the slides to present. So we'll now open up for questions and answers. Before we do that, just to point out the sort of next steps for anyone that wants to take this further. You can create a Wasabi free trial account. There is a Panzura partner program. I know Jean-Michel mentioned about the Wasabi partner channel, but we also are a partner first company and sell through that channel. And also feel free to request a demo where we can show Panzura working with the Wasabi object store through our demo labs, through a cloud demo. So that's that. I don't know, Petra, if there's any questions come through yet.
Thank you both. We do have several questions, and let me start with the topic of the day. Look, ransomware is not going anywhere. It's becoming more threatening. Attacks are becoming worse every day. So perhaps I have questions for both of you. Perhaps Jean-Michel, if I can start with you, what what can customers expect if they're attacked by ransomware and they store their data on Wasabi? What can they expect?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and that's very frequently asked questions by many customers everywhere in the world today. It's not because you put your data in the cloud that they will be preserved and protected from ransomware attack. In order to increase the data protection in the cloud, you have to use immutability, which is already provided by Panzura, but on the cloud, with Wasabi, we offer immutability. So the data which are stored on the Wasabi cloud can be immutable for a certain period of time, during which it is not possible to modify or to delete this data. And this is today the best protection against the ransomware.
Okay, and Tom, same question for you. So you said earlier Panzura makes you immune to ransomware. So immune doesn't mean that you're never attacked, but it means you're not affected by attack. So what can customers expect if they're on Panzura, if they're hit by a ransomware attack?
Yeah, I mean, Petra, you're correct in that. In terms of immunity, yes, you can still get attacked if you're using Panzura, but you know, in terms of, I mentioned before, the way that we capture those 60-second deltas in files. So a ransomware attack is still seen as a delta change. It's a change in the data itself. So when that happens, by nature, we can roll back to the previous 60 seconds prior to that attack, which means we can then isolate that clean version, isolate the encrypted version, and then use standard security tools or processes that a customer would use to remove that. So it's that ability to spot quickly, and because it's a 60-second capture, we capture it very quickly as well. It's not been sitting there for 4 hours between a snapshot where it can have that time to move around the network. So that.
Got it. Okay, and I think perhaps the next question follows on nicely from that. So how does Panzura remove the need for traditional backup and DR processes?
Okay, so well, we would remove that from the fact that it goes back again to the way that we snapshot. Globally, we can snapshot the whole file system, and you could set that up, for example, to do every hour. But also then again, capturing these deltas means that there's always a very recent version, and it gives you that 60-second in effect RPO on the data. But then when we partner with the likes of Wasabi, they have, as Jean-Michel mentioned, redundancy inherently built into their data centers as well. So you're getting the benefits and the best of both worlds. So you don't need to back up, and you don't need to put too much consideration onto the DR fact as well. Our filers are redundant in the way that they can be deployed as well. That said, we don't say don't back up. Customers are still welcome to back up, but that is additional cost they need to factor in. And we have, again, more use cases where we've actually allowed customers to save on that backup and use that funding to actually drive more forward into the value bit, because they no longer need to allocate budget to backup. They can now allocate it to business outcomes that data is then providing.
Got it. Okay, next question is for Jean-Michel. Are there any limitations on the number of buckets you can have? And are there any limitations on the number of objects you can store per bucket?
No, there is no real limitation on the number of buckets. I believe there is one, which is above 1,000, and usually customers, they do not need to create so many buckets. And there are some best practices depending on the workload the customer are creating on the bucket level. It might be better maybe to create 2 buckets instead of 1, but usually this is not an issue. And I don't know if this is also another question, but the question is there a limit in the number of objects we can create per buckets? There is no real limitation.
Okay, perfect. Tom, the next one's for you. Can you talk a little more about how Panzura allows users to work together on the same files without colliding and overwriting?
So if I go back to the slide I showed our network with this mesh network, we have file locking held within those nodes that sit on the network. So for example, if someone creates a file in New York and then someone in London wants to see that, that lock moves across the network rather than going in and out of the file system, which creates latency. So that file real time is then shared. So someone in London can then make a change to that, and then that lock can be passed back to New York. So it's real time collaboration in that way. But also there's still only a single copy of that file that is then as the data is changed, but is saved centrally. But then we can save versions within the local filers as well. So if you're using VSS with Microsoft, for example, on PowerPoint, you can still go back and see the latest versions within there, but it allows for that real-time collaboration around our mesh network.
Got it. And actually the next question I think fits nicely into that as well. You mentioned at the start a 5,000% increase in speed. What does that really mean to business? Is it just about how much faster we are to competitors, or does that have a dramatic improvement? Do businesses see a dramatic improvement?
Yeah, it does when it comes to collaboration. The speed of business is always, a key point. If you're working in the field and you're remote and you need, quick access, you don't need to be waiting, watching things roll around on your screen while you're going in and out across the internet into a file store. So that fact that this snapshotting, which I keep talking about, these data deltas we capture with that 60-second RPO, means that because we're sharing in real time, you're pretty much moving at the speed of business rather than waiting. And even 5 minutes could be, quite quick, because if it's a busy period, you could see 10 minutes plus in terms of waiting to get metadata and the latest updates. And that then leads to data corruption, because if you've got the latest version of the file, or you're saving over the wrong version, what are you actually working on? So that again goes back to our patents in terms of file locking and file sharing that allows us to deliver that service.
Okay, so next one, Jean-Michel, I'll start with you for this one. For small and medium enterprises wanting to move away from physical servers, is the Panzura Wasabi combination cost effective as an alternative to SharePoint, or is it a solution that's better for larger enterprise customers?
I think it's a question for both Tom and I, but from a Wasabi perspective, now that the cloud becomes a commodity, and especially with Wasabi, with our extremely low price and no egress, which is extremely important, particularly when you talk about unstructured data, which are going to be accessed quite frequently. This is lowering the cost of the solution, and the smart technology developed by Panzura with this global file system is a big improvement, and in terms of productivity and cost saving for the customers. I believe Tom has some better and complementary information to give on Panzura, but this is quite a smart solution. And today, managing unstructured data is a nightmare everywhere.
All right, Tom, what would you add to that?
Well, just to add to that, one thing I didn't really touch on the presentation is you're also taking out a lot of expensive equipment from on-premise that's not just costing yearly with maintenance and service costs, but also power, cooling, and let's talk about sustainability. You're moving to Wasabi with Panzura is removing a lot of the costs and I guess social things people look at these days with the green, reducing your CO2 footprint. So we're helping that as well. And then once you're in the cloud, you have all the benefits of scalability, but also the economics of a cloud footprint, paying on demand for your storage, but at the same time, our solution driving down and driving out the costs of ongoing maintenance, backup, and renewal costs that hardware tends to drag with it.
Good points. Okay. Can the Wasabi Panzura solution work alongside existing Teams or SharePoint collaboration implementations, including Office 360 co-authoring? Tom, you first.
That's a very good question. And is it one we can capture who asked and come back on? Because when we've done these sort of integrations around other tools, it depends really on the native access that we have versus solutions we build around that. So if we can capture that, I'd like to come back on that with a more detailed answer. I mean, at the overall level, yes, that's the nature of being able to allow feeding and serving that data up to those solutions. But if you wanted to look at the technology behind and how that would happen, then we'd have to come back.
Yeah. Okay, Tom, another one for you. It's unclear how remote users work with Panzura when working from home. For example, these are standard users on a laptop with no virtual or remote desktops. How does this work?
So, assuming internet access, you can use, so Panzura Data Edge allows for that VPN or frictionless, no VPN access into the file system, and that's through application. So a desktop application in that respect, or if it was an iPad, for example, a mobile application. I think that answers the question.
I think so. James, let us know if you have further questions on that. Jean-Michel, last one for you, I think. This is from a managed services provider. So does Wasabi offer multi-tenancy tools to manage a number of end user accounts?
We do, especially for managed services providers. In the early days of the cloud storage, it was easy to separate customers' data by doing what we call bucket separation, but it has its own limitation. So it is much more efficient and secure for the MSPs, and particularly for their customers, to be sure that each customer, they have a dedicated Wasabi account. This is a product which we call Wasabi Account Control Manager, and which allows an MSP or any other Wasabi resellers to sell Wasabi to their customers, but creating a dedicated account for each of their customers. This is a very popular tool, and it's a must-have tool, by the way.
Got it. Okay, Tom, a follow-up question for you from James. So you mentioned mobile device access. Are there native Mac and Windows apps for file access?
I'm going to say yes, but again, I'd like to double check that because obviously that's a new product, so I'll need to speak with the technical teams just to make sure that's the correct answer. The other option, which I mentioned before, is the Customer Connect, which is a browser-based access, so that can be used as well. So that would give you like a SharePoint view as opposed to an application view. But I believe they are Android and iOS, but we can double check and confirm how that delivery is done, as I say, because this is a product that came out, as you know, this quarter, or just last quarter.
Okay, no problem at all. So that gives us 2 questions to confirm on, and that looks like the end of the list of questions. We'll just wait a moment. If anybody has anything else they'd like to ask, please drop your questions in the question box. Otherwise, I think we are done. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Is there anything you'd like to add to John?
No, just to thank everyone that's attended, and if you have any questions, I can be contacted on LinkedIn as well, and any other means if my email address is shared. So happy to talk to anybody. Post this if they want to talk to me one-on-one.
Same for me. Thank you for making this webinar possible first, and thank you for the participants. And feel free to contact Wasabi, whether you're an end user, customer, or potential or an existing reseller, to discuss. Like Tom, our email addresses are on the presentation. I believe you will receive a copy of the presentation. So thank you very much for your participation.
Wonderful, thank you. And to everybody here, we have recorded this presentation. We will send you a link to the recording once it's finished processing and it's loaded online. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.